Good evening, and welcome to Democratic Television, a public affairs show where we discuss community events and issues that impact our democratic values. My name is Lisa Plawchan, and I will be your host this evening. Tonight, we are having a conversation with Knox County Schools students, parents, and teachers about public education during COVID-19. We are going to be discussing lessons learned from last school year. We're going to look at the school's reopening plan and how each one of us have made decisions for this coming school year. We're going to discuss how the community can support teachers and staff and what our visions are for a successful school year. I'm greatly happy to have our guests joining us this evening. We have Allison von Groningen, who is the parent of Lila von Groningen. And Lila is a rising ninth grader at L&N STEM Academy. We have Dave Gorman, who is a teacher at Cedar Bluff Middle School. And my own daughter, Sophia Plawchan, who is an eighth grader at Farragut Middle School. So without further ado, I'd like to begin by asking the students the first question. I'd like to hear from you, Lila and Sophia, about the end of last school year. What were your thoughts when we were going through the decisions to close school and move to online learning? And what did your typical school day look like? Lila, why don't you begin by answering that question?
Well, first of all, it was all really of a shock because we were just going into spring break and we didn't think it was going to be like this. But when we heard, my mom ordered me a book from Amazon about algebra because I had not covered one subject, which was quadratic equations. And that book helped me. And then also I brushed up on my summer assignments that I had for the next coming year, and worked on my science fair that I had to finish. So that was all really different, and we had to use Zoom throughout that.
Yes, and did you have connections with your teachers at all during the end of the school year?
Yes, but the one thing about honors that I did was if you wanted to improve your grade, then you could do KCS at home, and I didn't really have to improve any of mine, so I didn't actually have to do any, but I decided myself that I wanted to be taught quadratic equations for the ending semester.
That's fantastic. Well, I would like to learn those as well. Sophia, how about you? What was your reaction to the end of last year, and kind of tell us about your virtual school day?
As soon as they called off school, all of my friends and I, we were all very excited because we thought, an extra 2 weeks of spring break, it's going to be great. And then when we realized the severity of the situation, our attitude changed completely, and it was just really different. And when we started virtual learning, my sisters and I were very excited to do virtual learning, but as the weeks went on, we kind of fell out of routine, and it was really hard.
Yeah. And I would just add to that, I think you guys started driving a lot of their own lessons, and that I really enjoyed that because they were able to study things that were interesting and important to them in their core subject areas. Because we went from having a very set curriculum to, okay, for math, you pick quadratic equations or whatever it is that you want to study. So it just evolved over time. And so it was kind of a fun learning process as a family. So Dave, can you maybe share with us from a teacher's perspective how things were for you at the end of last year?
Well, sure. Thank you. And it was really, really challenging. We also, Sophie, we also were excited about, an extended spring break possibility. But the reality of it was, we didn't know what we were facing, of course, and we were hoping with kind of the piecemeal announcement of being closed for a few weeks to see what happens, that maybe we would be back in school by beginning of April. And watching that change and realizing that, we're going to be shut down for an extended period of time. And then trying to determine and wait for direction on what type of things we were going to be providing for our students made it very, very challenging. Not all students in Knox County have equal access to computers and the tools to be successful. And so there were a lot of concern about equity and about providing students with the support that they needed. And so from a teacher standpoint, we were really concerned about maintaining connections. We also were concerned about feeding students. That was something that happened at most schools where we were providing take-home food for kids who might have some issues with food at home. There were things that schools provide in a social services kind of way that there was a lot of sense that we've got to help and continue to provide support and structure for these kids. From a purely teaching standpoint, the last part of the school year is where we get to do some pretty cool things. We have to get ready for standardized testing, of course, but also there are some activities and things that we've been building towards for quite a while. And so it was lousy to realize that we weren't going to be able to do some of those things and to wrap up a good, hard, challenging school year with our students. So my teacher friends and I were really saddened about the way the year ended because it left so many things up in the air. And I look forward, because I teach 7th grade, at seeing those students again at my school, when we're back. But it was a real challenging end of the year and very unsatisfying.
Yeah, and I really appreciated your comments, Dave, about the inequities in our education system that kind of surfaced through this whole learning process. And it was a learning process from the very beginning. It was very fluid and changed every day. When we go into talking about the reopening plan, I am actually pleased to see that the school system is very much aware of the inequities and disparities in our education system, and they're really trying to address the needs of all students. So we'll get to that in a second. I want to just continue talking about the end of last school year. And Lila and Allison, if you want to talk about resources that helped you through, Lila, you had mentioned the Knox County Schools at Home program.
Yes.
And we could talk about the resources and then also any challenges that you faced and how you overcame them.
Yeah, so like I said before, with my math, my mom ordered me a book to help me with those equations. And then also I was trying to do science fair at the time too. So one thing that was very helpful was Zoom. That was another resource that helped me. And then I'm trying to think, but I think because I did not do the KCS at home, but I looked at it, but also it didn't offer, because even if I wanted to brush up on my honors, it did not offer the honors option of 8th grade that I needed.
And it was amazing. The Southern Appalachian Science and Engineering Fair held their first virtual fair in April. So that was pretty amazing. They worked with the students on getting more information, getting additional volunteers, changing the format so that could even take place. So kudos to that group, that organization.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'm really happy to hear about that. I think for us, as far as resources, I think initially there were so many resources, and I just felt like we were being bombarded from a million different directions. And while it was wonderful to see all the information that was out there, but to filter through it was kind of a challenge. We did look at the Knox County Schools at Home program every week. Like on Sunday night when it would come out, we would look in all three of the kids' grade levels, and they would go through it too and pick certain things that they wanted to work on throughout the week. We did some things, we didn't do it all, but I was appreciative to have that resource. Sophie, do you want to talk about maybe one of the lesson that you really enjoyed in the KCS at Home?
Yeah, my favorite lesson from KCS at Home was actually not from my grade. It was from one of my sister's grades, which probably kind of added to the fun of it. But you got to pick 5 different states that were all touching each other and do like a virtual road trip through them. But every state you had to like research different like activities that you would do as if you were really going on this road trip. And I was very happy to be able to do something creative like that and turn it into a PowerPoint.
Yeah, the kids really enjoyed that lesson. Dave, do you want to share any challenges other than the ones I know you mentioned, the inequities and the food issue, but anything else that you want to mention for challenges and or resources?
You know, the KCS at Home was put together, and folks were pretty active in putting together lessons as quickly as they could. I actually got to do one that was released in the summertime. I did it in May, and it was good practice. I realized that learning how to do that and upload it and create it and everything, I mean, it took some time, but I assume that there'll be more of that coming. So we did our best to keep in touch with our kids through weekly emails, and unfortunately we weren't getting a lot of feedback from all of them, and you don't really know how many of them accessed the information that was available to them. I never did see any numbers from Knox County Schools that said that these lessons were being seen and utilized and completed by this percentage of students. I do hope that they found that support and that they were able to take advantage of it, but I really don't know if they did.
Yeah, those metrics would be, or data would be interesting to see for sure. And also in combination, I know we were able to see how many packets were distributed because they were also handing out the packets with the food distribution sites. So yeah, that I would be interested in knowing that data too.
And going along with it, I really would like, if I can, to give a shout out to all the folks who put together that food distribution, because that was equally as important, and maybe for many families more important than whatever type of packets they might have been able to pick up. That was a huge effort that was put together really, really quickly to provide nourishment to a lot of families.
Yes, I completely agree. And I think it was a real community effort. There were lots of different organizations that really came in to support each other. And that was, wonderful to see as well, that community togetherness. So I want to shift our conversation to this school year. As we all know, that Knox County Schools recently shared their fall reopening plan for next school year, and they gave families 2 options, an in-person or in-school learning option and a virtual option. And I just wanted to mention at this point that, every family situation is different, and there's no one way that's better for anyone else. It's every family has to look at it from their own individual perspective and just make a decision that's best for their family. And so, Allison, I just want you to share with us kind of your thought process as you were making the decision for Lila this next school year.
Well, we made the decision together. She's at an age where, of course, she definitely has her own thoughts and ideas. But I think the deal breaker for us was that they could not guarantee honors or AP courses with the virtual option. So that, it's challenging doing the online learning. And if it's not challenging, I think that challenging to the student, I think that that would make for very long days. So that was probably the biggest thing. And then, of course, she had some ideas about why she wanted to do in school.
Yeah, I just wanted that experience, even if it was going to be wearing a mask and meeting new friends, because in this high school, I don't know many people besides two people coming from my school that would be going into this new school that I don't know much about. And I really do like going to school, and I don't feel like I could be that person who sat at home and did virtual all day long.
Yeah, I think the way she's put it is she wants the high school experience.
And I totally understand that, Lila, completely. High school is really some formative years of your life, and I totally get it, mask or no mask. I understand where you're coming from. And you mentioned your new school because you previously were at, is it Powell Middle? Is that right?
Yes. So I would be going to Powell High School, but now I go to Telenet.
That's right. So that, I can completely understand that rationale too, and how that factored into your decision. For us, Sophia is my oldest of three, and we have a sixth grader as well as a fourth grader. And so for us, our decision really came down to family members here in town. My mother is a cancer survivor, and she's very involved with our family. And we rely on her a lot to help us. And so we were just a little bit concerned, three children in different schools, and what that might look like. And then my husband's job right now, he's working from home. So we thought we might have some flexibility with that. So we actually chose the virtual option. But like I said, every family situation is different. And so I think it's really important to hear how people came to their decisions and the factors. Because I personally, it was a very difficult decision. It was not easy, but I was very appreciative that we had the choice.
We were as well, and there was a lot of tossing and turning at night to come to a decision. And I feel like that is across the board: parents, students, teachers, school staff. So it has been an interesting and anxiety-ridden couple of weeks.
Absolutely. And Dave, I'm sure you can attest to much of that same stress that parents are feeling from a teacher's perspective.
Well, absolutely. As we knew leading up to the plan, we knew that there were a couple of options that were being considered. We thought there might be a hybrid, but there really is just a in-person or a virtual for students. And what we found out with teachers is that teachers who are teaching this year have to be on campus teaching. They're not going to give you the option to teach a virtual class from home or somewhere else. So, and right now we are looking at students in the building. And so there are a lot of teachers who are very, very concerned. I have some friends who've made the decision that they're going to take a leave of absence this semester because they feel like it would be dangerous to their health if they were to actually be in the school building and potentially exposed to that many people. So it really is, it's been an unreal couple of weeks as we get closer and closer, the anticipation and build up and the immediate tear down of the plan to see, okay, how does this work? What is this going to look like? I have mixed feelings, frankly. I expect I'll be in a classroom, and I'm hoping that with the leadership team at my school, which I'm a part of, that we'll find ways to keep people as safe as possible, and we'll work through problems to address areas where people might be exposed. But it's not going to be easy.
No.
And we're teachers, and we're not superheroes. You know, we're regular people with real feelings about this stuff, but we also usually are pretty good about trying to find solutions and work to make things better for our kids. And I know that that's behind a lot of the emotion and the feelings, strong feelings that teachers have about going back into a classroom. We want to be safe. Of course, we want to teach, but we want to be safe.
Yes, absolutely. And I just want to thank you and all the other teachers that, you know, have had to make some really tough decisions and weigh risk factors about going into the schools. And I mean, I don't know a teacher that just doesn't love their job so much because they want to do the best for the students. And so we're just so appreciative of the teachers. And that kind of leads into my next question, Dave, which is for you. And, you know, whether you're choosing in-person learning or, you know, the virtual learning option, there are ways that parents and the community can support the teachers, the schools. Can you just share with us some ways that the community can continue to support our schools during this difficult time?
Well, sure. And that's a great question. And we know, because some of us are already hearing from families who have, you know, kids at school, and we've had their children and they know what's going on. They do want to help and they do want to be supportive. And it's more than just maybe, you know, sending in some Kleenex, although we'll take them, hand sanitizer and Clorox wipes and things. Those are the standard types of things that people donate. And they're really appreciated, of course. We want to be able to take care of our kids, our students, as best as we can. And so things that, the static that's going to be going along with all this, we're going to make some mistakes. If we're open and we have kids in the classroom, we're going to be trying to teach them, but we also want to keep them safe. We've got, I always spend, like most teachers, a couple of weeks at the beginning of the year really working on building a relationship with kids, getting to know them and finding out, you know, what makes them tick, what makes them happy, what do they like to do, what do they not like to do. It takes some time. These kids have been through a lot. As your daughters can tell you, they've been through a lot. Having the school year end the way that it did, it's traumatic, and being socially distanced for the summer. So give us some time to work and build up some relationships with your kids and help them feel safe and secure. When we mess up, give us a little bit of grace, as we'll do with your kids as well. And we're doing the best that we can, I suppose, would be what I would ask. Just give us some room, and let us figure out what this is going to look like. It's going to take some time.
Yeah, and I think too that we are all in this together. Nobody knows the course ahead of us, and we're all learning and going through this. So I think your comments about having flexibility and understanding patience, and that education and connection piece is so important. And I was really happy to hear you say that you spend the first couple weeks working with the students on that. Especially at this time. I mean, it's important at all times, but I mean, at this time in particular, you know, focusing on just bonding with those students and, you know, building that relationship, it's going to be really critical for sure. So we are coming already to the end of our conversation. And so I want to just turn to the future and talk about what is your vision for success? What's going to make this school year a success? And I think, Dave, to your points about, you know, just having flexibility and that sort of thing, but anything else that you think will make the school year a success, and how will you contribute to that success? Allison and Lila, do you want to start?
Sure. One thing I'm gonna jump ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
One thing I'll say as a parent, I was active in PTSA at Powell Middle School. And I think now more than ever, our teachers and our schools are going to need support. And whether it's joining an organization like PTA, PTSA, a foundation, or just helping the teachers that your particular student happens to have, I think we really need to step up this year and help out in any way we can.
Yeah, I think that's really right. Like this year it's gonna be different. We can't be all like rushed. We have to take it easy, and it's all a different new environment, even for our teachers. Even though they've had this experience, they haven't had it like this, and I feel like they're more pressured than we are. Versus we just want to get our assignments done and get them in. They're like, okay, I'll grade them soon. But yeah.
And so what are you looking forward to this year?
I'm really looking forward to making new friends and seeing what clubs they have there. And, overall, just going to school.
That's awesome. I'm excited to see what you get involved in too. I know you're a very active student, so
Yeah.
I'm excited for you about that opportunity. Dave, what about you? What do you think will make this school year a success?
Well, I think we've really had time to think about what's important about school. And there are things that have become more and more important: relationships and consistency and making those connections are really, really important. The way that we measure success has changed over the last 10 years anyways, we see the rise of standardized testing and using those types of metrics to determine what makes a successful teacher or what makes a successful student. I kind of think that it's going to be like the metric system. We're used to measuring things in our English system with feet and pounds and stuff. And we know the metric system is out there. We're not really good at it. We need to be open to some new ways of measuring success. And again, it's with, kids who've been through a heck of a lot, and we got to give you guys some room to get comfortable and find different ways that growth is going to get measured. So I look forward to that. I pray for the patience to be able to set up a environment where people feel safe to grow in that way.
That's wonderful. Sophia, we have just a few minutes left. Is there anything what is your vision for success for this school year?
If I had it my way, I would love to have a normal 8th grade year. And I'm sure the class last year would have loved to have that too, the 8th grade class last year. But I feel like as a student, we're just going to have to figure it out. And I feel like that we will definitely grow, like as people and as like students, definitely from this experience. And I just think that we need to go with the flow, or it's going to be really chaotic.
That's right. Yeah. Well, I would like to thank you all again, Allison, Lila, Dave, Sophia, for joining us this evening. I really appreciate the conversation and your candor. And I will just close out to say that voting is happening right now for the August primaries. So please make sure you go and vote. A lot of these things that we're talking about today are tied with, who are in seats of decision-making seats. So just go out, let your voice be heard. And thank you so much. And we will see you next time on Democratic Television. Have a good night.